Today we're diving into a fascinating medical story about a powerful safety net, an antidote designed to reverse a common blood thinner right when everything is on the line.
So just imagine this for a second. You're taking a medicine every day that keeps you safe from a deadly stroke. But then, crisis hits, a bad accident, a sudden need for surgery, and that exact same medicine is now the one thing that could kill you because it's stopping your body from forming a life-saving clot. That's the conflict we're getting into.
And that leads us right into our first section, where we're going to unpack this double-edged sword of modern anticoagulants. Okay, so on one side of the coin, you've got this drug, Dabigatran. It's a fantastic protector. It works by blocking an enzyme called thrombin, which is essential for making blood clots. Great for preventing strokes. But, and this is a huge but, if that person starts bleeding uncontrollably or needs to be rushed into the operating room, that protection becomes a massive problem. The very thing keeping them safe now puts them in incredible danger.
So how in the world do you fix a problem like that? Well, you don't build a general solution. You engineer an incredibly specific one. Let's see how they did it.
And here it is, meet Idarucizumab, which you'll probably hear called by its brand name Praxbind. Now, this isn't some kind of all-purpose antidote. Think of it more like a precision-guided missile. It's what's called a monoclonal antibody fragment, basically a tiny piece of an engineered protein that has one and only one mission: find Dabigatran and take it out of commission.
And you only bring this out for the absolute worst-case scenarios. We are talking about life-or-death situations, a bleed inside the skull, massive internal bleeding that just won't stop, or a really severe trauma. It's also the go-to when a patient on Dabigatran has to have emergency surgery, where the ability to clot is completely non-negotiable.
Now we get to the really cool part, how this thing actually works on a molecular level. And the science behind it is just, well, it's beautiful.
The secret to its power all comes down to one number: 350. See, Idarucizumab is engineered to grab onto Dabigatran with a force that is 350 times stronger than Dabigatran's bond to its natural target, thrombin. That overwhelming attraction is what makes it so incredibly effective.
Because of that incredible binding power, it can do something pretty amazing. It doesn't just get in the way of thrombin, it acts like a molecular magnet, literally pulling all the Dabigatran away from the body's clotting system. It's basically molecular theft. The whole process is remarkably clean and simple. First, the antidote hunts down and binds directly to the Dabigatran. This allows it to, steal it away from thrombin. Once they're locked together, they form this totally stable, inactive package, completely neutralizing the drug's effect. And from there, the kidneys just filter this harmless little package out and get rid of it. Job done.
Okay, so the science sounds airtight, but does it actually work when a patient's life is on the line? Let's take a look at the proof.
And that proof comes from a huge global trial called the REVERSE-AD study. This was the one that really put the drug to the test in the exact situations we've been talking about, patients with major bleeding or those needing urgent surgery.
And the results? They were just incredible. The study found that the median reversal of Dabigatran's effect was a perfect 100%. Think about that. Within minutes, the blood thinner's effect was just gone.
And the speed is just as stunning. The antidote starts working within minutes. For patients who are actively bleeding, doctors were able to get it under control in a median time of just 2.5 hours. That creates this vital window of time for medical teams to do what they need to do to save a life.
And what about in the operating room? Just as impressive. For over 93% of the patients needing emergency surgery, doctors reported that they achieved normal hemostasis, that is, normal blood clotting, during the procedure. This is an absolute game changer for emergency care.
But, as with any powerful medical intervention, there's always a consequence. Reversing the blood thinner isn't the end of the story. In a way, it's the start of a brand new challenge.
And here is the fundamental trade-off. The moment you neutralize the anticoagulant, you have also unmasked the exact reason the patient was on it in the first place, their very real risk of forming a dangerous clot.
You see, it's this incredibly delicate balancing act. Before the reversal, the number one danger is bleeding. After the reversal, the danger flips 180 degrees to clotting. In fact, that same REVERSE-AD study found that around 5 to 7% of patients had some kind of thrombotic event, like a stroke, within a month of getting the antidote.
And all of this leads to some really critical things that clinicians have to juggle. They have to remember this is a one-trick pony. It only works for Dabigatran. They absolutely have to plan on restarting a blood thinner as soon as it's safe to.
It's also incredibly expensive, so it's only for true emergencies. And finally, keeping an eye on things can get tricky, especially if a patient's kidneys aren't working at 100%. So we're left with this really fascinating clinical puzzle. On one hand, you have a nearly perfect antidote that can stop a catastrophic bleed right in its tracks. But the very second you use it, the patient's original life-threatening risk of clotting snaps right back into focus. So for the doctor standing at that bedside, the question is no longer just how to stop the immediate crisis, but how to safely navigate the one that's sure to follow.